oh, maybe this thing that I regret doesn't have to feel so heavy. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Tiff and Tony Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Tony, hello. How are you doing?
I am doing well, thank you. I am out and about today. I am sitting in a wonderful food court, funnily enough.
Well, nice. You get yourself some good lunch after this.
Yes, I do. And where are you?
I am in my temporary home while I'm looking for long-term housing. So it's been nice having a little bit of stability, having stable internet,
Nice.
a backyard for my dogs to run around in while I work. Yes, it's been very nice.
It does look like you're just about to lead a meditation where you're sitting there. It looks like you're sitting cross-legged, ready to kind of lead us in a nice, calming meditation.
I am sitting cross-legged, and I think I'm just gonna have a meditation after this. That sounds great.
Awesome.
So thank you for that idea. Well, let's jump into today's topic, which is really part 2 from last week. If you watched our episode last week, you know that we talked about the book, The Power of Regret, and what that looks like to turn regret into a powerful tool to help us move forward in life successfully and in healthy ways. So today we're talking about the power of regret in kind of a different way, I suppose. And we talked a tiny bit about this last week. Tony, you had mentioned kind of that negative chatter that we do internally to ourselves, sometimes externally when we talk to ourselves out loud. And so how can we turn that negative chatter into something good? It's
interesting when you get into, that regret thought pattern. You sit there and go, God, I can't believe I did that. I'm such a loser. And it's very much based around, I'm such a whatever, fill in the blank. I'm useless. I can't believe I did that. Right? And it soon spirals downward into even more negative chatter, right? And we talked about this before. 80% of what goes on in the brain is in fact negative. So we don't need to add to that. And what we need to do is to snap out of the negative spiral. But snapping out of the negative spiral is not easy. But there is a way. There is a way. And it's simply using your name.
Hey.
That act of saying, Tony, what are you doing? Right? And sitting there asking the question kind of spins that out. I've been listening to a really cool podcast series, and it talks about, and I've read a lot of books about this, there are 2 systems in the brain, system 1 and system 2. And we've kind of talked about this. System 1 is really quick, really fast. It's your emotional brain. It's making decisions really quick. And in system 2 is thoughtful, logical, but it's slower and lazier. So you're often in system 1, which is your negative chatter, right? That's your spiral. But when you actually sit there and go, Tony, what are you doing? It wakes up system 2 because it gets you to think. And your system 2 is your thinking piece of the brain, which then needs to go, what am I doing? Right?
Yeah.
As soon as you're in that awake, you can look at this. And then you can do things like ask the question, if this was Tiffany sitting in front of me, would I go at her in the same way? Would I sit there and say, Tiffany, you're such a loser. You're horrible. You are. I can't believe you did that. Or would you go, hey, Tiffany, it's okay. We can get through this. Let's look at what the good that can come out of this, right? And that kind of thing. So we've got to get a way to get the thinking piece of the brain engaged.
When I start going down that negative thought pattern, sometimes it's a deep, dark hole and it just keeps going. It's that rabbit hole, and it's really hard to stop it once you're in it. And so I know CBT therapy, it's a type of psychotherapy, uses things like this, like what Tony is addressing. And they're called just like stop techniques. It stops that thought pattern abruptly, and it gives your brain a chance to take a deep breath and pause and be like, okay, this is where I was headed. I don't want to go there mentally. So how can I change directions, get on a different track, and do something that's more productive? Because ultimately, that negative self-talk, while it can sometimes be motivation for change, it oftentimes ends up not being motivation for change, because then we just get pity party, we get down on ourselves. I lose. It's like at some point I have motivation. I'm like, negative thought pattern, maybe a little bit of motivation for change because I'm like, oh, something has to change. But then I keep going down that road and it just drops off. And it's like, now I have no motivation because I'm depressed and sad and helpless and hopeless and feel like there's nothing that's going to happen that's actually going to change my situation. And ultimately, that's not the place that we want to end up, because
Right.
that's not where change is going to happen. And again, we've said this so many times in the last many weeks, is what do we have control over? What do we not have control over? And how can we take action in a positive way? Well, in order to get to that place, we need to have a healthier mental pathway.
And it's almost habit forming. Right. As I've got into this and I can feel myself looking at things I'm doing wrong, things that I didn't do with PureGame, and, you know, maybe I should have partnered with that person or followed up with that person.
Right.
And I get into this, oh God, you're so hopeless you are. And then I go, okay, Tony, stop that now. What else can we do within our control right now that will get us back on track? And that act has really helped me kind of change where I would normally end up. It's kind of almost like my mum is saying something to me, or my dad, and I'm like, oh crap, what have I done wrong? Regret can be a good thing because we can learn something from it.
Yep.
But unless we learn something from it, regret is just regret, and it's just something that's happened to us. And that's true with anything in life. Failure and mistakes are part of life.
Yep.
Human. We are just human, and we are going to fail and we are going to make mistakes. And there's a lot of things around learning from your mistakes, right? So a mistake or a failure doesn't become positive unless you learn from it. You've got to learn from it, which means you've got to stop and pause to say, I'm not going to go down the negative track. I want to go the positive way here, and I want to see what I can come out of this. And there's no arena that turns up more than in sport, right? In sport, right, when you come off the field and you've just lost a game 2-0, you can go and, oh, we lost, I'm really bad. And you can walk away and mope. Or you can sit back and look at that game and say, hey, Tony, what did you learn from that game? Oh, yeah, they were pushing here and we didn't defend here, which means I've got to learn to defend a little bit more, whatever that might be, right? It's the lessons that you can learn from this, which is so important.
It's transforming regret, which is just a natural part of life, into action, into learning, into growth. And so we're all going to experience things that we regret in life. It's just a fact, to varying degrees, to varying amounts. And if we let it sit in regret, that will there are things that I probably haven't worked through, like regrets I have that I probably haven't really worked through in this way, that 10, 15 years ago that I still regret. And it sucks to like have those little memories pop in my brain and be like, oh gosh, I guess I still regret that. And instead of letting it just sit and live in regret, I think this is a healing process too. You know, it's not just this transactional, like, how can we make change and growth from this, which is good. I'm not saying that's not good, but I'm saying there can be that deeper level of emotional and human healing too, of like, oh, maybe this thing that I regret doesn't have to feel so heavy. And so when the memory arises, or when I have another regret that reminds me of a different regret, it doesn't have to eat away at us so much. It can just be, oh, this happened, and now I can move forward with my life. And it doesn't have to have a hold on us. It doesn't have to paralyze us. So that's our challenge, is practice this kind of stop technique. Call yourself by name as if you were someone else. Say, Tiffany, stop. What are you doing? And what do you want instead?
Yeah, that is perfect. Well said.
Thank you. And thank you for another great tool that I feel like my tool belt's getting kind of heavy, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I just know that I've been learning so much from us doing these episodes. And as much as I love that we're able to put these tools out for our audience, I have really learned so many tools. Yes. And so yes, thank you. And that actually leads us into the fact that next week will be our final Tiff and Tony show.
Yeah.
I will be leaving PureGame after next week, and this has been one of my favorite parts of my job here at PureGame, actually. It's been so cool to be able to encourage others, to work with Tony so closely, to talk about real life human stuff every week. And I have learned so many amazing tools. So next week, we'll have another great topic as we close out the Tiff and Tony show as it has lived. And thank you so much for this opportunity, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your hard work. It's been awesome. Looking forward to next week.
Yes. Well, everybody, go out there, practice this, add it to your tool belt, and we'll see everyone back here for our final week of the Tiff and Tony show next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Thank you so much for joining Tony and me in this week's episode of the Tiff and Tony Show. We hope you feel encouraged and motivated to keep growing with us. If you like what we do here at PureGame, one of the best ways you can support us is by liking and sharing this video with your friends on social media. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel using the button directly below this video on YouTube, and you can donate at our website, www.thepurgame.org. And with that, we'll see you right back here next week.